$4,700 bucks. For that price, you can get the top of the line Trek Madone SLR. You can get the top of the line Scott Foil RC, but both of those are the frame set only. For the same amount of money, you can get the Polygon Helios A8X with complete 12-speed Shimano Ultegra Di2. Is it worth it though? What do you get for that money? What is Polygon? Where is Polygon from? And what are you missing out by going with a consumer direct bike versus a traditional buy it in a bike shop IBD brand? I'll get into all of that in this video about what I like, what I don't like, things like the front axle bolt falling out when you take the front wheel off, the tubeless tape busting. I'll talk about things I do like these super plush Schwalbe tires and the cockpit, which if it fits you, to my hands and taste, is a comfortable deal. And I'll talk about how this compares to other aero bikes on the market. This video is supported by FasCat Coaching. If you want to go fast on the bike, you got to start and finish with the engine. The new FasCat app can coach you like a pro for less than $20 a month and includes unlimited workouts that can be tailored to your time to train and gives you instant feedback via the AI-powered CoachCat. Check them out now at FasCatCoaching.com. Let's start with what you get from Polygon for $4,700. You get a bike in a box shipped to your door. This is a screaming deal for an aero bike. How aero is aero? Polygon makes no specific claims, just saying it's faster than the old iteration, but there are no claims as to how it fares against others. At a quick glance though, it has all the trappings of an aero bike with the aero tube shaping, deep wheels, and fully internal routing into a tidy integrated cockpit. If you live in Australia or Asia, you're probably more familiar with this brand than those of us who live in the US. Polygon is an Indonesian brand, which is being distributed exclusively in the US by Bikes Online, which is an Australian consumer direct website. Let's go piece by piece, starting with the Ultegra group set. I love how this group feels. My joke about Ultegra Endurace for the longest time is that the only two ways you can tell if you're not looking at it is with your wallets and with a scale, and that the functionality between Ultegra and the top-end Dura-Ace Di2 is, to my feel, indistinguishable. Yes, it weighs a little bit more. Yes, there's definitely a different finish, but the functionality is the same. The shifters are now wireless, and you've got a battery wired into the front and rear derailleurs. Shifts under power. The braking is fantastic. Just one finger modulation is all you need, even as a heavier rider coming down long, steep mountains. One addition that I appreciate finally with this 12-speed is having buttons on top of the hoods that drive your computer, whether that's a Garmin or a Wahoo, just to be able to toggle through the pages. It's a small thing, but a nice thing. You can also configure those buttons to have shift functions if you prefer. The ergonomics I also find to be excellent in that you can easily wrap 3 fingers underneath the hood and your index finger up around the front. It's a longer hood than the outgoing mechanical, and for me, I wear size large or extra large gloves. It's just a very comfortable shape. It's a smaller top than, notably, its competitor SRAM Red, although SRAM Force is a little bit smaller on top, but how the stuff shifts is obvious, and brakes is a key part of it, but how it simply feels in your hand, because that is a primary touch point for you. I think that's of huge importance. Ultegra Di2 is excellent, and getting it on a complete bike for $4,700 is a killer deal. Schwalbe tubeless tires. They're 28s on these house brand Entity wheels. They measure a plump 30 mil. What's Entity? Well, that's the house brand for Polygon. In addition to the wheels, you're also looking at an Entity saddle. Frame is claimed 878 grams in a size small. This is a size large. Press fit BB in this frame. I know that's a turn off for some of you. I've had no issues with this, and on mini bikes with press fit I've had no issue, but some folks do squawk about how press fits can squawk, so just something to be aware of. Built up As seen here, it's 17.5 pounds or 7.94 kilos. A pretty respectable weight for an aero bike with the deeper tubing and the deeper wheels. At $4,700, what are you giving up? Most notably, the ability to sit on the thing and have it adjusted before you buy. I listed the top end models of the Trek and the Scott, and those have a range of bikes, so it's not like that is the only price, but those are more expensive models. However, you can go into the shops, provided you live near one of these, and make sure the thing fits you and make sure the cockpit adjustments are to your liking. We can't talk consumer direct without talking about Canyon. Its aero road bike offering with Shimano Ultegra Di2 12-speed is the aeroed CF SLX8. Now that is $6,000 and comes in 4 sizes. Incidentally, that's the same price as the frame set, including seat post and cockpit for BMC's Team Machine R. In terms of speed, what are you giving up in aerodynamics with this compared to some of those other brands? I don't know. Polygon is making no claims, and turns out I do not have a wind tunnel here in my humble garage. Things that can be easily measured though are weight. This guy is lighter than the Scott, which has much more aggressive aero shaping, but heavier than, say, the top-end Specialized S-Works Tarmac, which is a claimed 685 grams in the S-Works model. Again, that frame set, though, $5,500. So you do the math about how much those couple few grams are worth to you. And then maybe, depending on your preferences, you may be giving up a little bit of the cool factor. To me, Polygon doesn't really mean anything. It's not a negative thing, it's not a positive thing, it's just, there's nothing really there. But to circle back to the primary thing you do not get is the ability to fit on the thing ahead of time. And the integrated bar, while it looks slick, and I like how it feels, if it doesn't fit you, then you're kind of defeating the whole purpose of having an aero bike where good aerodynamics is the objective. This leads us to sizing. The bike comes in 5 sizes. It tops out in an XL, which has a top tube of just under 57 centimeters. This isn't a huge bike. Polygon's website with its height recommendation chart runs from 5'1" to 6'1" as the top end of the bikes. I'm 6 foot flat, and I went with the large, not the extra large, in part for the stack figure. As you can see, I don't have a ton of seat posts showing, and I didn't want to have this cockpit any higher than it already was. The smallest 3 bikes come with 170 cranks, and then the large and XL come with 172.5 cranks. For contrast, I'm a medium in Canyon, which has small, medium, large, and extra large. Your front end dimensions are relatively fixed with the integrated bar stem. You can come down a bit. In addition to hiding the brake hoses, this also hides a potential cost in that if you want to come down, you're going to have to cut the steer in order for it to look nice. Yes, you can put spacers on top. That's what I did for riding around because I don't cut the steer tubes on test bikes. But if you want it to look cool, which is part of the plan with these aero bikes, you're going to have to cut the steer, and realistically that's going to take some serious wrestling with the brake hoses. This may be something you're comfortable with. This may be something you need to take it to a bike shop to do. One thing that will certainly incur some costs and time is if you want to change the cockpit. It's not a matter of just taking off a stem or a bar. You've got to disconnect the brake hoses and redo the whole thing. That will certainly add some cost and some time to the operation. How much does this matter? Maybe the bike fits you like a glove right out of the box. I would certainly encourage you, if you're considering this bike or any other, just to measure 3 times, order once, and maybe even get on the phone, if not a chat with the folks selling the bike, just to make sure that the fit you have and you like is a fit that the bike will provide. If you want to go fast on the bike, in addition to dialing in your position, you should also dial in your training. This video is supported by my friends at FasCat Coaching. Now you can get coached like a pro for less than $20 a month with the new FasCat app. The app includes custom training plans scaled to your time to train, unlimited training plan revisions, automatic FTP detection, custom workout recommendations, and instant workout analysis via the AI-powered CoachCat, which looks at not only your power, but also your wearable data if you use a Whoop or a Garmin watch. I've been using FasCat training plans going back 15 years now or so. First time I did Unbound 200 I used a plan by FasCat founder Frank Overton, ended up 30th or something like this overall and second in my age group. I won the Colorado State Road Masters title using the FasCat training plan. I love the fact that you can now tweak the plans not only to your available training time, but move days around when work, family, life happens. It adjusts on the fly. I encourage you to go check out the FasCat app now. The first month is free and there's no credit card required. You can click the link up here or look for more information in the description below. Here's some things I did not like in my months of testing this bike. Started with literally putting the bike together. The bolt fell out of the fork as I was putting the front axle on. That should be bonded in. Polygon said that was an oversight. Didn't affect anything once the bike is together, but also didn't give me a huge amount of confidence when a bolt fell off. Similarly, the tape on the rims burst as I was setting the wheels up as tubeless. Not a big deal. It was a bit of a mess to take off the old tape, clean it up, wrap it with some new tape I had, and then it was good to go. A minor cost and not a huge amount of time, but just something that was less than impressive in the early setup. Lastly, the saddle is a pretty squishy saddle, which your tastes may vary, but for me, that I associate with lower end bikes, and it's not quite as comfortable as a slightly firmer saddle. That said, I left it on the entire time for riding the bike, so it's not that big of a deal. The overall shape is okay, just pretty squishy. I'm guessing why they put on a squishy saddle is because the ride is pretty firm. A lot of aero bikes, just due to the shape, have less give than something without such a deep tubing shapes. In any event, if this was my bike, I would probably swap the saddle for something that's not the Entity house brand. So those are tangible things. There's also an intangible thing that I wasn't super keen on, which simply is the brand Polygon doesn't mean anything to me. And the same goes for the brand Entity. I realize sports marketing is a lot of money spent to influence our emotions that doesn't necessarily affect the product itself. That said, it remains a factor for many of us when considering buying a bike or another passion-based product. Over the decades, many brands have gone the consumer direct route, trying to save money and save you money on the price. The only brand, to my mind, that's done it very well as far as having both the price and the cool factor is Canyon by spending a ton of money. Mathieu van der Poel, for instance, world champion, signed a 10-year deal with Canyon. Does that make the Canyon bikes tangibly better? Not necessarily, but it does, in my mind, show how a consumer direct brand can have a cool factor to compete with a traditional bike shop brand. Here's what I did like. Generally, I like how the bike rides and feels. Give credit where credit is due to the super plush Schwalbe 1 tires. Again, these 28s are measured to like a 30. Going with 50 mil wheels on an aero frame, the bike feels fast at speed and in crosswinds. Some of that's maybe in my head, but I do believe that aerodynamics is a thing and the general shape is a fast shape. I like how the cockpit fits my hands. The forward swoop, maybe a couple years ago looked funny to me, but I like how it feels in hand, and I've certainly been in wind tunnels to test integrated bars versus standard bars, and that's a pretty easy aero gain, right? Just by removing a lot of the material, you're going to get faster. So I believe that this is a faster setup, but critically to me, it is also a comfortable setup. I rode this in a lot of places around Colorado, some fast group rides, a lot of solo rides on pavement, a little bit on dirt. The dirt in Colorado is often nearly as smooth as pavement, but that underscored that this is definitely an aero frame and not as comfortable as some of the others out there, but not as bone jarring as some of the early aero bikes like the Ridley Noah, for instance. It's a quiet bike. I didn't get any rattling of the brake hoses in the bike. As I mentioned, there's no issues with the bottom bracket over months of testing. I didn't ride this exclusively. As you guys know, I'm constantly rotating through different bikes, so the longevity of gear is something I and other testers are not necessarily the best to comment on, just because we're often testing so many different things. But having this bike for 8 or 9 months, I've had no noise issues. I dig the mount on this bar, and then it's easy to move it fore and aft for bigger computers, smaller computers, turn it for Wahoo versus Garmin, and then also mount underneath for your GoPro or your lights. Lastly, the thing that I really love about this bike is the price. $4,700 for a carbon aero road bike with deep carbon aero wheels, Shimano Ultegra Di2 drivetrain. That is a screaming deal. If there's a better deal out there, I have not found it. So in sum, the Polygon Helios A8X is a heck of a deal at $4,700 with Shimano Ultegra Di2. Be aware, if you're a taller rider, this is not the bike for you. Topping out at an XL with a shorter than 57 centimeter top tube, and it's rated for riders no taller than 6'1". Your individual results may vary, but just one thing to keep in mind is the sizing of the bike. The other thing is the integrated cockpit. Looks sweet to my hands, feels comfortable, but that is a limiting factor and something that can cost you extra money if you need to switch it once you get it shipped to your house and it doesn't fit you the way you like. Despite a couple issues like the front axle nut falling out and the tubeless tape popping, the quality seems generally good on this bike, and I still feel it's a very good deal for the money. If you're considering this bike, my primary caution to you would be to just make sure you understand what you're getting into with an integrated cockpit as far as how that restricts your position and what that could mean if you want to go change that in terms of time and cost. Got any questions? Please leave them below and I will do my best to answer them. As always, I thank you for watching and subscribing, and whether you're buying a bike consumer direct or you don't want to buy a bike at all, get out there and enjoy the ride.